Trusting my life to a $3,800 car? What could go wrong with that? What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. I'm just sitting outside here, and I did something either really smart or really stupid. If you know me and you know those two options, then you probably have an idea of which camp that's going to fall in. But let me tell you something. I just bought a 2006 Jeep Commander with 217,000 miles on it, and I want to do something either brilliant or stupid by turning it into a budget Overlander. All right, now, before you click away thinking that this is just going to be another awesome car build, flawless from start to finish and intriguing from start to finish, let me clue you in on a little secret here. This thing is going to be sponsored by the Panda Research Institute completely. No sponsored gear, no brand deals, no donations. Everything that goes onto this rig in this build series is going to come out of my pocket, which means this is not a $50,000 or $80,000 build. I've watched those videos. They're amazing. Golly, I want some of those trucks. They are nicer than homes I have owned in the past year. But as a slightly dumber than average person that lives a pretty average and normal life, I want to see if you can actually build something that can actually do the job of overlanding, get you out there in the great outdoors, allow you to enjoy the wilderness without being rich, because otherwise I would never be able to enjoy it. Look, I grew up camping, did a lot of outdoor stuff, Eagle Scout, countless adventures, whole 9 yards. Some of my best memories are of me and my friends and my family out in the middle of nowhere. Not fancy resorts, not expensive trips. They're from watching my dad sprint down a river, chasing the only water purifier that we had. I remember one of those micro tornadoes coming through our campsite, taking one of our tents a mile down the mountain. You can't plan moments like that, but they sure stick in the old crawl here. But here's the thing that's been bugging me lately. The overlanding world has gotten really expensive. I love seeing rigs that spare no expenses, that make 3-foot snow drifts look like they are made out of powder. There's something manly about just crushing through the wilderness. But the thing that they have all in common is that they are expensive, and not just a little expensive, like unaffordable expensive for the average person. I was thinking back to when I was a Boy Scout. My old Scoutmaster, Dennis Hannon, had this 1980s vintage VW Westfalia camper van. I really remember it. It was kind of impressive at the time. I remember him pulling into camp, parking it, popping the tent top, and boom, he was ready to go. All his camping gear was there, his cooking gear. He could stand up in it, change when it was raining. You could sit down on the couch, you could wash your dishes. There was just something about being able to pull into the campsite and be able to start enjoying the experience right away. The rest of us were spent setting up camp for the next couple of hours, putting down our ground claws, setting up the tent, setting up our cook stations, all of that kind of stuff. Now, still, that was really fun. In fact, sometimes I thought the VW van was cheating a little bit, but as I get older and at my age, that van makes a ton of sense. However, the problem is, now with van life and overlanding and camping and exploring and living like a nomad becoming more trendy than ever, that van, which was probably pocket change for him at the time, is actually probably now more expensive than a house down payment. And not the new version of that van. That actual van, those 1980s Westfalia camper vans are going for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 today, which is crazy to me. So now that I told you kind of what's getting me into the overlanding idea, you're probably thinking, well, why a Jeep Commander, Pete? Well, trust me, it wasn't my first choice for a vehicle. In fact, I stalked Facebook Marketplace for months looking for the right vehicle. In fact, I really wanted a Hummer H3. They look cooler. I think they are more capable off-roaders right out of the box. They are easier to modify in a lot of ways. And even though they haven't been in production for years, there seems to be a really good aftermarket for them still. Well, let's be honest. Those things still look badass. I mean, there's something manly about a Hummer, and I could use all the injection of manliness I can get, you know what I'm saying? But here's the problem. Apparently everyone else has the same idea. The prices are stupidly high on them. They are still really expensive, and God forbid you actually want to get one of the Alphas or one of the special editions with the V8. They're borderline unaffordable. And that's just for the vehicle, not turning it into a full off-road rig or a Overlander or camping rig. And the other big issue for me was the ones that I looked at, the frames were rusted out. I don't know if they start rusting as soon as they rolled off the assembly line, but whatever they used, or however the Hummers are getting used, the frames are rusting out badly. big holes. A lot of owners will even say that, hey, the frame needs repair or replacement. Some of them just look atrocious. Even though they look pretty good on the outside, the body's not in bad shape. Many times underneath, it is just a dangerous mess. So I didn't go with that because I actually started looking at the Jeep Commanders, and for whatever reason, underneath, even though they do have their own fair share of rust, it wasn't nearly as bad as the Hummers I was looking at. So what I did was, after looking at a number of Jeep Commanders, from the V6s to the V8s, I actually ended up settling on this '06 Jeep Commander Limited with the 5.7 liter Hemi V8. So I know what you're thinking. This is going to be a competent, capable machine. Well, let me tell you what. This has over 217,000 miles on it. The engine is making a lot of weird noises, screeches, creaks, crunches, pops, knocking. It is leaking fluids like it needs an adult diaper. The suspension is wobbly and making all sorts of suspicious noises. So this thing needs to be brought to roadworthy before it can be brought to off-road worthy. So I'm going to be doing a lot of, I think, standard used car acquisition types of repairs and maintenance before we can even start thinking about some of the stuff that will get it a little off-road. So some of my favorite places will be the AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts here locally. I'm going to be looking on Amazon for cheaper parts, or Rock Auto. I'm going to be scouring Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist for the parts that I need. I'm not going to be beholden to buying new parts. Gently used, previously loved parts are a welcome part of this build. I want to do it as cheaply as humanly possible. I actually want to see what it really takes to get into an overlanding rig, even a basic, cheap, and aged one like this. So you may be thinking, that's all well and good, Pete. You're going to be spending your own money on a rig. Why overlanding at all? Well, here's my issue with modern camping. It's not really the gear. I have tents and stoves and sleeping bags and sleeping pads and outdoor gear galore, but it's all sitting on shelves, waiting to be carefully packed, put into the back of your family vehicle, driven out to a campsite, deployed, used, brought back. Then you get home and you have to unpack your car. You have to clean it up. You have to open up your tent and let it dry and air out. That's all a ton of work to do, which I think is why so many people are avoiding the outdoor activities like they used to. It's not that easy to go out and do it. It can still be done pretty cheap, but you add in all this extra work and it's just not worth going out and doing it. But having an Overlander is kind of like having a fire truck for camping. It's a dedicated vehicle. In this case, it's a vehicle that I'm not even using for anything else, so I can keep my camping gear in there. I can keep the cookware and all that stuff in there, kind of like my Scoutmaster's Westphalia van. I can put a rooftop tent on it. If I get an evening off during the week or a free weekend sometime, I can just grab some stuff, do a stop at the grocery store on my way out, go and find a campsite, go and find an abandoned field, go and drive somewhere that I wanted to see. And if I can't find a cheap motel, hey, just pop the tent in a Walmart parking lot or something like that. And so it's way more convenient to have that all in a dedicated vehicle. I understand it's not the cheapest or the easiest way to go, but even when I come back, I can just pop the rooftop tent and let it dry out, air out. I don't have to worry about if I've got all my stuff, if I've got all my gear with me. I can keep all of the essentials in the vehicle itself. So that's what I think an Overlander does, is it makes a vehicle ready for you whenever you're ready and takes away some of those barriers that I think are keeping people inside instead of going out and exploring. And so the last question, why a budget Overlander? Why build the cheapest Overlander you can? Why not save up some more money and maybe build the Overlander of your dreams? Well, the reality is this. The clock is ticking for us all. If you're not going to go out and enjoy things right now, who's to say you're going to enjoy them in a few years when you have a little more money? I really want to see, can you take a vehicle that's a few $1,000s? Can you spend a few $1,000s to kit it out so that it's something that you can actually use for this, that you can go out and enjoy, that can take you places that you haven't seen before, that can give you some experiences that you haven't experienced, that can be something fun for the entire family, make you a better parent or a closer friend? Can you do that without breaking the bank? Sure, there are tons of vehicles that start at $200,000 and go all the way up to $1 million. They're impressive. I definitely want to check some of those out one day, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, can the everyday person actually afford to put together something that's simple and basic, but gives you the capability to go out and enjoy 80 or 90% of what many of the people with really expensive Overlanders are enjoying? For most of us, I don't think we want to necessarily do the rock crawling and the really hardcore off-roading and fording rivers, going to the ends of the earth and that kind of stuff. A lot of us just want to get away an hour or two from here, somewhere that looks different, somewhere that feels different, somewhere where you can fire up a campfire and sit around and actually connect with people. Can you actually do that on a budget? That's what I am setting out to try to figure out. What is it really going to take to do it? And then afterwards, what have I learned from this? Is it something that you should just do to take your family RAV4 and convert it? Is it something that you should think about a totally different vehicle? Buy a retired school bus or an old work van? Or should you just stick to the old school camping? Pack your tent, your cookware, your gear, your clothes in the back of your Jetta, and just head out to the local KOA? I'm not sure. We're going to find out. This is going to be an adventure for us all. I might spend a bunch of money and have a rig that doesn't actually get out of the garage and just abandon it. That's definitely a possibility. I'm hoping that I get something that we can actually take out there that has some capability, that maybe doesn't have to be rescued, but might be. Or maybe it's so capable, it rescues a few Subarus off Mount Doom. Who knows? But the next few weeks will be interesting, and they start right now. So if you want to see what kind of Overlander you can build on a budget, and if it's worth it, check out the next videos, because I'm going to show you every detail. Good, bad, and ugly. The 2006 Jeep Commander Limited Project Overlander starts today. Peter Von Panda, out.